It's a beautiful October morning and I'm in Sherwood Forest Country Park today, so expect more views like this one. Despite not being the best woodland for autumn colour, on the right kind of day and in the right conditions, it can almost rival many other woodlands. I said before that oaks aren't the best of trees for giving autumn colour. At best, you get a bit of an orangey yellowing of the leaves. Some trees just go brown and drop off. But this time of year, the dying bracken provides a large proportion of Sherwood's autumn colour, and it shows up quite nicely in that shot, doesn't it? But I'm going to have a wander now across the Gleadthorpe Open, which you'll all know by now. I'm going to have a look and a wander up the heather path and just get some scenes of autumn in Sherwood Forest. And I'll try and keep out of the wind. It is a bit breezy in parts, a northwesterly breeze, so hence it feels a lot colder than it has been. And as you'll know, you're now looking across the Gleadthorpe Open, my favourite spot in Sherwood Forest. Well, just walking up here. Well, about to anyway. I'm preempting myself. And this is the southern or the northern edge of the Gleadthorpe Open. And if you want to find invertebrates on a day like today, this sheltered southern section of woodland and scrub is the place to look. On cooler days like this, the insects will still be there. In fact, before I left home to come here, I did have a red admiral nectarine on verbena in the garden, despite today being considerably cooler than yesterday. So if you're out and about and you want to look for something, pick your warm spots. Not on yourself obviously, but in the habitat you're in, you'll find a lot more that way. Although saying that, I might have to rethink. The rain over the last few days has certainly helped fungi, and now is a good time in Sherwood to go looking for said fungi, because it should be in abundance. And here is the heather path. It's a popular path with dog walkers, but it's also popular with people foraging for fungi. It is quite a good spot for fungi, and the big one that they're all after here is the old penny bun. This tree, this long dead ancient oak, plays host to one of the country park's apex predators, and that's a hornet. About 3 foot up from the base of the tree, there's a large vertical crack, and where the crack is at its widest, that is the entrance to the hornet's nest, and there's still quite a few workers coming in. And there's certainly plenty approaching the tree. I'm just wondering, actually, because a few are going round on the other side and aren't coming in this side, so I'm wondering whether there's a secondary entrance. But many of Sherwood's old oaks have hosted hornets over the years. Don't worry, the tripod's extended 5 foot. Fabulous things, aren't they? So, draw away. If ever you do find hornet nests, try not to stand in the flight line. That's when you really are asking for trouble. Keep to the side so they don't see a silhouette as a threat, and you're usually okay. As I always say, treat them with respect. And most of the oaks here are still in full green leaf. Just small sections showing any transition into autumn colour. And that's looking west up the heather path. The heather here has regenerated quite well in the last 10 years, but it sort of ends just a few yards in front of what you can see here. But I'll have a wander up there. I've had a red admiral go through, actually. I hope after all this time that they're not moving through, but it's potentially a good day for it. They've got a good following wind, and of course this time of year, with the sun being lower in the sky now, means that the shadows are longer. So already this southern half of the heather path rarely sees any sun. The banks on the northern half that you can see there obviously does get some sun, but it appears to be difficult pickings for fungi. I say it's such a popular spot. There's a couple up there that's after fungi. There's 2 lots that I've seen up here alone. There's a jay flies low over the vegetation there. But the long shadows do create some nice lighting. Autumn can be absolutely beautiful. Now here's a beauty. This is a lovely fungus, and it's called the amethyst deceiver. It's just about the only fungi of this colour. And it's found in most woodlands, especially beech woodlands. You don't get it too much at Sherwood, but Sherwood's predominantly oak and birch. And there's this one, and there's a smaller one. It can occur in good numbers at some sites, but it's a beautiful fungi. And here's the underside, showing the unicolorous gills underneath. Fungi have three parts basically. This type of fungi, obviously you've got the stem, which I believe can be called the stipe, and then you have the cap on top, which is your smooth domed appearance, and then underneath you have the gills, and the gills take various forms. And this is a beauty. One of my favourites, the amethyst deceiver. If you get tired of backlit trees like this, then you really need to look at yourself. Absolutely beautiful. And in this section, there's not a breath of movement. No breeze moving those leaves at all. And a few insects you might be able to make out flitting through the shafts of sunlight. You can hear the breeze as it's coming through the top of the trees now, and gradually working its way through. In fact, those leaves that have been still might start to move. But autumn is a magnificent time for being out. I know it's the opposite of spring. Spring is all, everything's before you. The whole year, the summer, the warm weather, the sunny weather. It's a very positive time, spring. Autumn can be quite melancholy. The end of a year, all the year's sunny, fine and warm weather is gone. And you've just got the colder days, the colder nights, the longer dark nights to look forward to. But despite the fact that the coming months bring shorter days and colder and longer nights, there is still things to be found. And the beauty of the countryside remains. That's still there, it's still always there. It doesn't get packed away for winter. You can find beauty on a cold winter's day. There's a lot of this small Boletes growing under these oaks, in amongst this oak litter. And the colour of the cap blends in remarkably well to that of the oak leaves. It's a fungi actually you don't find till you nearly tread on it, but there's plenty about. You have to admit, it's a belter of a day. It's surprising how many people never even recognise fungi like this. Not even through a bright golden yellow coloration. If I remember right, this is one of the club fungi, one of the yellow club fungi. I think it's Helvola or something, or Helviola. I could be wrong, you know. But it grows often in profusion in this short turf on the heather path of Sherwood. But it's a beautiful thing. It's only a couple of inches high, or an inch to 2 inches high, and yet no one seems to give it a second glance. But that can often be said about 99% of wildlife. I was hoping for a quiet, lovely little shot. The jays have other ideas though. But this almost looks like early spring because the grass is growing. And there's one difference between winters now and winters when we were children. In the 60s and 70s, grass didn't grow in winter, but now it does. And there's an element of many gardeners whose Christmas tradition now has been to cut the lawn on Christmas Day. Because we have such mild winters now, grass grows pretty much continuously. It's only if we get a really cold frosty spell, prolonged frosty spell, that it stops growing. It never used to happen. That's quite a nice picture, that, isn't it? But when you think of autumn being the end of everything and winter being the end of everything and the dormancy period, if you look around you, it isn't. And quite often, it's far from it. Winter's no time for the naturalist to be dormant. Well, that was the heather path, and it was quite quiet. And a pleasurable little stroll, and a bit of a fungi foray, really. So I think we'll have a steady wander back to the car. It's a lovely view, that. Thorsby Pit Top in the distance. If they do things right with that pit top, it can join the country park up with Sherwood Heath. It can make some fabulous heathland habitat up there, providing they don't muck around with it too much. Well, that's Sherwood for another day. It's time to return home. I'm going hungry, and I quite fancy a cup of tea. It's been a nice little walk. Nice to find and film some hornets through varying methods. I'm especially pleased that I've got a 4-foot tripod. Highlight of the morning. And that looks quite a nice view. I can't wait for the same view in springtime when we come looking for hazelpot beetle.